Hi, everybody. This is 1,078 days. I believe it's 1,078 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. So let me see, connect here. I'm coming on very late. Oh my gosh, it's so late. But once you start researching, I sit down here and I start going through all of my notes, going through all of my emails, going through all of my messages. Um, and then you just have to research what's going on. And I didn't do it all. I didn't do all the research and look because it was getting so late. Um, and we have some elephant in the rooms. Um, that is really huge. And tonight, going into really July 9th, July 8th is a very interesting day because of the way the sun shines on most of the land masses um, on this day. So it's just an amazing day. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy it. Um, I always like to pay attention to those kind of things if I can, because I like gardening, of course. And, you know, we're supposed to focus on wonderful things, amazing things, honorable things. And when you're dealing with reading what I'm reading and getting the leads that I'm getting uh, and the letters, we got a letter, at least we got a signature. At least we got a signature. This is really good. So, okay, I found myself. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for coming on. Anicia, thank you for coming on. Dan. So, let me just give you an update. We've been going through all of our information that we have collected over more than 1,000 days, and it's a lot. It is so much. And to put every little thing in a timeline, um, but when you're talking about so many people, like yesterday I talked about General McConville, um, and absolutely when you put him in the timeline and see what he has done, he's absolutely a criminal. He's committed crimes against humanity, and he's absolutely, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. And of course, if he's going to do crimes like that against us, against our country, against the military, against the world, really, when you commit crimes against humanity, that's what it is, um, then you can kind of, once you wrap your head around the truth of that, because it's not just me, it's all the news articles I've been sent, the timeline of the last thousand, uh, 1,078 days. And when you look at what has happened and the responses, and where is his response to this mess of a case of a soldier, that everything has been everything has been botched, absolutely botched. Even Richard's designations have been botched, and the response from General McConville um, uh, did not equal to the severity of this case at all. There was no urgency. There was no um, there was no real task force. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why there was no real task force that met on November 9th, 2020, to find Richard Halliday, because they already had Richard Halliday. They already had his remains. That's my belief. Okay. And it's not just out of thin air. It is putting, you know, when you look at the Bible, when you do a Bible study, okay, how I try to approach it is I love Dimbleby with his chronology. I love Gleason with his chronology. And it's called the 5 lines of astronomical method, right? Of measurement. 5 lines of astronomical measurement. And so you use 5 lines in order to understand what you are studying in the Bible, God's words, because God made creation. And those 5 lines, I don't want to give you a lesson on that tonight, but they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And because you can take those and apply them to all the information in Richard's case, not the 5 lines of astronomical measurement. I wish it was that easy. But you can take um, the method of using different lines of measurement, different approaches. That's why I really liked the PI. I know the PI was corrupt, okay? And he was working really for the CID. He took our money, but uh, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But what he did tell us at the beginning was so helpful because he's the one that put those thoughts together in my mind. If I'm going to use different lines of astronomical measurement to help me study the Bible, then why not use the possibilities of what happened to Richard, right? And he was like, oh, did he walk away? Did he commit suicide? Did he get in an accident? Was he kidnapped, abducted? Was he murdered? And so it made me think, oh, yeah, that's how I need to approach. And of course, I told my husband that that's how we need to approach our son's disappearance, since we have been made the official investigators of our son's case, because no one else is doing it. They're just botched. So Team Find Richard Halliday has now made the ones giving them leads. And the reason why they wanted the leads is they wanted to know what we had found out, right? So that they can manipulate the narrative. That is absolutely obvious to us now. But that's okay because we are transparent. And I'm not, we have never wanted to play that game with them, to play hide and seek, or we'll hide the remains and keep it a secret. The FBI can keep it a secret. The CID can, the military can keep it a secret. The representatives can keep it a secret. The media can keep it a secret. All these other people that know in other agencies can keep it a secret. But see, we didn't want to play that game. We want to be transparent. We want to put that out. If they want to manipulate the narrative, if they want to use military operations against us, if they want to use asymmetric warfare tactics against us, if they want to use psyops against us, and by doing that, use it against the public to keep them from finding out what happened in Richard's case, then they have to live with themselves on that one, and they have to face God on that one, okay? Because, they're the elephant in the room, right? They're the ones that keep coming. They're the ones that spin these narratives that are, they're the ones that are stealing the names, the identity. They're the ones that are going to be, they're just weaving this web, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, it really does become the elephant in the room. And then the public will say, wait a minute. There's an elephant in the room here. What's going on here? You have this team Find Richard Halliday. They're day in and day out trying to figure out what happened to their son. They're trying to give us what they know. And yet, what's the Army doing? What's the DA doing? What's the AG doing? Why are we paying our taxes? What's the representative doing? What is the JAG doing? What is these former generals doing? What are the generals doing right now? What is Congress doing? What are the senators doing? What are their representatives doing? Right? See, once there's going to come a point where their narrative cannot hide the elephant in the room. Okay? 1,078 days since Richard went missing, and we have been calling out, where is the platoon leader? And, that's a little baby elephant in the room. Why don't they give us Richard's platoon leader? Because we believe it's Dallas Hart, right? We believe it's Dallas Hart going green from gold, and then he gets out. Okay, we believe he got in trouble with this case. We believe he has allegations against him. We absolutely do. And so, the same thing with, well, we know that from his mother, right? His mother, Leilani Hart, made major, well, she told it. How is this not a big deal with the media, with the Army, with the representatives, when Leilani Hart says her son is in an incestuous relationship while he's in the Army, and she's getting Richard's file that has been leaked to her by her lover, the special agent Tavita Nusa, who was assigned to Richard's whistleblowing case. I mean, you how big of an elephant does this have to grow for people to pay attention? Because we know that Special Agent Tavita Nusa lost his badge. We know that. So I don't know what it takes. And then, for General McConville, who committed crimes against humanity, to stage the task force, find Richard Halliday without an op board, and with the Army not being in uniform for that meeting, which was a very expensive meeting because there was 15 plus, I like to call it culminating $1 trillion agencies, right? All of these monies over a long time to develop these agencies that are supposed to keep us safe, keep us secure, thwart crime, and make us a better nation. And this is not what's happening, is it? I mean, we will know them by their fruit. And you have the general, 4-star general, conducting a cover up by using our monies while wearing our uniform and our stars that we've entrusted him with, right? To cover up the murder of a missing soldier because to stage the cover up of a murdered soldier because the soldiers were getting chopped up. The soldiers were getting chopped up. There is some kind of I call it the Trojan horse inside our military. When you see the case of Vanessa Guillen interlacing with Enrique Roman Martinez and Richard Halliday and Austin Hawke, and these are all under the same CID Criminal Investigative Division that is really implicated in conflicts of interest. If you don't think that Leilani Hart with Tavita Nusa when Tavita Nusa was assigned to Richard's whistleblowing case, and she wants his file to report on her son that is the platoon leader for Richard Halliday, um, and then against and has it notarized, and we talked to the notary public who he had it in his hands, right? And we have witness testimony that of who he is, and that's not enough conflict of interest, because now we have a conflict of interest with James Hart, with James McConville. And that was just from yesterday, talking about it. And today I really want to talk about Clem Coward's role in this, Major General Clem Coward, who was the commanding general for 32nd ADCOM, Richard's command, and the timelines, the allegations against him, and how it fits in like a puzzle. You can't make it up. It When you start getting all the information and you put it together, and you've got things from a couple years ago. We're at day 1078, right? So we have things from a couple years ago, we have things from a year ago, we have things from months ago, we have things from weeks ago, and you have to put it all together, and you don't have a big staff. I mean, I'm not like Clem Coward. We're not like Team Fine Richard Halliday. We're not like General McConville with a big fancy air conditioned building and a big staff and a driver and a cook and all of this people that he can click their heels together to get them to do things for him. We're not like that. We have to take the time to do these things ourselves. And so we're burning the midnight oil, right? We're burning the midnight oil because we want to know what happened to our son. And the picture is getting clearer and clearer because, there's always this thing. What did we hear last from Richard? When was he seen last? And the date that settled on is July 23rd, 2020. I guess we have to settle on that date. There are some conflicting on that, but that's the date that we have to settle on. And it was really a very volatile time because of the COVID. Um, if you remember those 15 days, 14 days to slow the spread, or 15 days to slow the spread, but that was a big lie. If they're going to lie to us about that, they'll lie to us about anything. Um, so let's start on July 23rd. And you might see July 24th or July 22nd, in the information once I release it. But it's very, I can tell you right now, we can go back to January, January 9th. Let me see, I don't have that in front of me, but January 9th of 2020, and June, I believe 19th, maybe 17th of 2020, when Richard was blowing the whistle. Okay, so he was blowing the whistle and he was assigned to Vita Nusa. Now that's shocking, because when we came in, they didn't even tell us he was a whistleblower. And they didn't tell us about this conflict of interest with Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa, and with First Sergeant Jay Paulin and Ron Steig. Because, see, the CID office, and I've been talking about this, but I'm going to repeat and repeat, is a small office. Let's say maybe 7 people, okay? Very small office. And it just so happens that Delta Battery 143 has two major conflicts of interest with this small little office. I think that in itself deserves a very close independent investigation. Okay. So, because of the other, I'm going to get to Jay Paulin too. But today, Jay Paulin, just a first sergeant. Okay. I think, we need to get to some of the big players in this, because the big players, when they commit these crimes, and they institute these crimes with their authority, they're contaminating so many others that are just trying to serve our country and make a living. Um, and it's like a grooming into a criminal syndicate, and they need to be held accountable. I don't know why General McConville is still in uniform. I don't know. I don't know why General Garrett has not been recalled and also held accountable. And the same thing with Major General Clem Coward. And there's more, but he plays a very vital role in all of this because of the information that we have gotten that has not been debunked. Why don't they debunk? And then maybe I'm going to drop a name tonight that maybe we can get more information on. I've already did some research on this. We've already done some research on this, but maybe others can do some research on this also to verify these claims that we have gotten. Okay, that these leads that we have gotten. Okay, because like I said, I'm going to be transparent so that we can get more letters from officials that have kept very, very quiet and don't want to answer these allegations and these leads that we have gotten. Okay, they want to avoid them. Why do they want to avoid them? That is because they're not nonsensical. They fit with everything else that's going on. And if they were nonsensical, it wouldn't fit like a puzzle. Right? Nothing would make sense. But see, the opposite has happened. What the CID was telling us, what the FBI was telling us, what General McConville was telling us, what Lieutenant General Bernabe was telling us was nonsensical. What the SJA was telling us was nonsensical. What the JAG has been withholding from us, which is very interesting because we have a couple letters in to Judge, who is a colonel, Judge Robert Lee Shook, right there at Fort Bliss, and we haven't heard anything back. Anything. Which is criminal. Okay? They're being very criminal right now by not answering our questions in regards to the illegal search of our home. Now, no matter what, we are nice people. Rob and I are nice people. We are going to cooperate with law enforcement, and we are very kind to them, and we are very gracious to them, and we are very grateful for them. And I think the deputies would absolutely say how gracious we were, how kind we were, how grateful we were. Very grateful, very grateful, very grateful. But the fact is, we cooperate, and they took advantage of us, and they didn't have a warrant. something we assumed that they would have. They didn't have a warrant. And that led us to say to people, this is an assault unit. This is a fugitive apprehension unit. These are big guys. The guy that came to the door was 6'8". They are meant to be intimidating. That's their job, to be intimidating, right? Because then they don't have to use force, but they will use force if they have to use force. And they were called out to our house without a warrant to trespass and to tell us that they're searching for Richard, that there is an arrest warrant out for Richard, yet they don't have the warrant. They don't give us the warrant. Now, why? And this is an assault unit. And why am I telling people this is an assault unit? Well, because all they had to do was send the police out or the sheriffs out, the regular guys, not guys in full battle gear that are coming around your house, sneaking in your backyard, and you're looking out the window going, whoa, who's that guy? Waving at him, cooperating, but what happened to just coming to the front door with regular sheriffs or regular police and saying, hey, we just want to check on you? No, there was no probable cause, y'all. This had a different intention. And that is why I've been telling people what I have been, so that they can see the elephant in the room. Another elephant, right? This is probably a baby elephant because there's a really big elephant in the room. And so when you look at that at the beginning, very beginning of September, this is not at the beginning of August. This is at the beginning of September. This is already 40 days after Richard went missing. Okay? This is when they're putting in a yellow Interpol at the same time. There's no probable cause if you put in a yellow Interpol. Using died while missing in relationship with this Interpol for Richard, there's no probable cause that he's dangerous, armed and dangerous, if he's died while missing in a yellow Interpol. And yet they're going to send not just some police or not just some military that are, not intended to be intimidating, but intended to be gracious and of service. That was not their intentions. So this is something for you to see how they're weaponizing or using asymmetric warfare tactics, or using, this being the sheriffs, this is the collaboration of agencies to be intimidating, to be weaponized against the family looking for their missing soldier son, who happens to be the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, who happens to be the distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and AIT, who happens to be the whistleblowing in January of 2020 and also again in June of 2020. Okay, one to the CPS, one to the CID, and being assigned to Vita Nusa. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so, I can go on and on and on and put in what happened at the beginning of September, with First Sergeant Jay Paulin, who has this big conflict of interest also within this small little office, CID. which is just like mind blowing for me. That there is not an independent investigation, there is not a congressional inquiry on this, that, they're not all over this because of the clear botched investigation, the clear evidence of a cover up of a crime. But it gets even bigger. Okay, uh, the crimes, the size of the crimes are getting so big that when you're a whistleblower, you're putting your life in danger. Okay, it's not like, um, this report about Austin Hawke. Oh, he told on a fellow soldier that he was smoking a joint, and so the sergeant that was out of the army plotted for 2 months with this guy to come in and brutally, you know, um, totally come in during the COVID lockdown, right? And totally brutally murder this soldier for telling on this other guy that he was smoking a joint. I mean, that is the most ludicrous. If anyone believes that article, it is just absolutely ludicrous. There's far more to it. Austin Hawke was reporting far more for someone to come in and brutally murder him. Okay? And the same thing with Vanessa Guillen. For the retaliation, for the brutal murder, something else was happening, and it's been being covered up. And the same thing with Richard's case. Okay? Here he is, a whistleblower. They don't even tell us he's a whistleblower. Okay? So right then and there, uh, that's a botched investigation. And when it comes to Clem Coward and his actions, let's look at what we have been given. Okay? Now, has this information been given to us by Clem Coward? No. Has it been given to us by CID? No. Has it been given to us by General McConville? No. Okay? What about Major General Eisenhower? Has it been given to us by them, or maybe the police or any other agency? No, it hasn't. Why not? Why not? Why not give us Clem Coward, Major General Clem Coward's actions during this very important time in the disappearance of our son? Why can't they list it? So we got a lead, and it's very interesting because it's saying the report. I had gotten this lead that Clem Coward called off the search for Richard on the third day. Okay, and I went, no way. That would make it about the 26th of July, right? That he would call off the search. And so I'm like, I how could that happen? And then I'm looking, and we're looking at the calendar. We're just trying to formulate all of this, and we get this lead, which I don't want to say that I didn't believe that Clem Coward called off the search for Richard. That's not what I was questioning. The questioning was on what day. Because we absolutely know, because of the overwhelming evidence, or lack thereof, that they called off the search for Richard. Because they never called us. So absolutely. There was nothing in the media. Someone goes missing now and they have it in the media. They have protocols. And that hasn't changed. That's been there for years and years and years. So we absolutely knew that Major General Clem Coward called off the search for Richard. That wasn't what was in question. When he did it was in question. And so I'm going to give you the lead um, that we got as far as the timing, and give me your opinion. Give me the feedback, because I think it's very interesting. Because I have in my head the leads of when they found Richard's remains that nobody has in the military sent us a letter to be gracious. And no, you wouldn't believe the anger. They are angry that we want to know what happened to our son. They are so angry. They're so angry that even the JAG is nervous. Even the legal assistance office is nervous. They are so angry because they know that this cover up is getting so obvious that the day is coming when massive people will see the elephant in the room and they will demand accountability. So if Richard disappeared on the 23rd of July 2020, we're getting a report that they didn't even report him missing until July 27th. Okay? And, would that be unrealistic? Well, when you look at Caleb Smithers' case, you say no. You say no. And when you look at First Sergeant Jay Pollin's words, we don't really look for AWOL soldiers, that was a bunch of baloney from a first sergeant, a bunch of baloney, right? But he's telling the tale, right? And so I'm thinking this is this lead is something to look at, to listen to evaluate, discern, put out there, and people can, there might be some people out there that have information. So we were told in this lead that they didn't even report Richard missing, not reporting, until July 27th, 2020. And that's when they decided that they needed to look. There was a search. Okay. They searched on the 29th of July. Now, that date that was given to us gave me cringes, because it was reported to us that the partial remains of Richard was found on July 29th, 2020 at Red Rio Range. Now, that you have to remember, this is right in the middle of CID having the biggest shakeup that they have maybe ever had or have had in decades, because of the Vanessa Guillen case and because of Austin Hawk's case and Enrique Roman Martinez's. Okay? They were in a shakeup, y'all, a huge one. And all of a sudden at Fort Bliss, they have another dismembered soldier being found on July 29th, 2020. Well, part of him anyway. So there goes the whole suicide thing out of the window, right? And we are told that Clem Coward's actions, and Major General Clem Coward can call me. He should have called me. He should have called me. He should have called my husband. A few years back, he should have called. Right? So he can debunk this, but Major General Clem Coward on July 31st, 2020, ordered the termination of the search for Richard Halliday. So you find some remains and then you close down. You just terminate the search altogether. And does the 31st sound right? July 27th through July 31st. Is that the third day? Not really. But I think it's, did he close it down on the 30th? I don't know. But listen to this. This whole designation of Richard is, I'm going to put together, well, I have been working on it. I've already started working on it to try to verify all these different designations. Like they were playing juggling with designations for Richard's case and for Richard. You know, what designation would fit him, right? What designation do we need legally? They were playing a juggling game with these designations, and is that hard to believe? No, because that was one of the big issues for the CID at the time, because they did not know what to designate Vanessa Guillen, right? So it was all this, you know, juggling is the best word I can say to pop it on him. You know, what are we going to designate him as? Missing, as AWOL, as deserter? There's no really, I don't see deserter at all in the designations. It is, it's really weird because he has a yellow Interpol. And yet we were told that he was designated a deserter. So, it says here, Clem Coward initiated an investigation into Halliday's absent without leave status that he signed on the 2nd of September 2020. He signed the AWOL document to investigate Halliday's absent without leave status on September 2nd, 2020. It says he was on August 31st, just a few days before, he initiated or he he made Richard AWOL, or started that investigation on the 31st and then signed the AWOL document on September 2nd, which is really weird. And when we reflect back, they were shuffling. They were shuffling papers. They did not know what to do with Richard. They did not know what to tell us. Okay. They were absolutely in developing a narrative mode. And everything makes sense now. So that's the 2nd of September. Now we knew Richard was missing at that time. We were, we had the fugitive apprehension unit. Um, they did not at all think that Richard was a danger to anybody because they had found his remains, y'all. You know, the military and the announcement, and I know this, it's like, why haven't they announced it? Why are they keeping this a secret? Why is this family saying that they have Richard's remains and they're keeping it a secret? What makes them believe that? I think a Colonel Davis could maybe shed some light on this. So we're told that Colonel Davis, and I think Colonel Davis was in Kentucky, right? He was at Fort Knox. Fort Knox is, what is that connection with Fort Bliss? That a Colonel Davis was meeting with Major General Clem Coward to discuss Richard on September 5th, September 11th, September 14th, September 17th of 2020. I'm sure they were trying to formulate their narrative and strategize on how they were going to conduct this investigation. Think about it. September 5th, September 11th, September 14th, September 17th. Now, this is what we've been told. On September 8th, Clem Coward contacted CID Special Agent Soto regarding Richard Halliday's disappearance. But on September 20th, Clem Coward was relieved from his duties due to his involvement in Richard Halliday's case. Now, that is the information that we were given in this lead. And you can back up this video after it's done, this live stream, and put those dates together. And you can put in that Director Ford on the 1st of September said that the CID is when they first started in this investigation. That makes sense, right? It makes sense that October 26th, the FBI took over the investigation of this case. That was the date of the FBI man. That makes sense. These findings of the Mexican autopsy was on the 19th of October, but they had already found Richard's remains. And it was really serious because they had partial remains, fragmented remains. There's three findings at this point. And let's not forget about the coming findings in December of 2020, and then, of course, in March of 2021. Just official letters about this information should definitely be sent to us. Definitely. This is our son. And yet their silence Veronica Escobar's silence. The JAG. You have a judge, a colonel judge, being asked what were the probable causes for the warrants. You issued six, we're getting 5 warrants that we were told another person verified that it was, because, we have this alliance now from within El Paso, from Fort Bliss, and that there were 6 warrants. Then there was another report, there's 15 warrants in Richard Halliday's case. What were these warrants for? For who were they for? Because they weren't for us. So who did they arrest? And I'll be shedding lights on that coming up, asking those questions of who we think that they arrested, who we think that they implicated in the murder of Richard. But who is this Colonel Davis? Why was he meeting with Clem Coward so much about Richard Halliday? So I think that is really important information. I'll take questions now. Third day is right. Okay, so thank you, Dan. Good evening. Good evening, Danielle. It is very obvious foul play seems involved, in my opinion. The response, no response. It's obvious. Yes, very much so. It seems many that may be connected to Richard's case are no longer in the military. Absolutely. They all shuffled. They all shuffled out. They all shuffled overseas. They all shuffled. I mean, and that's not a coincidence. Maybe you need to file claims at the State Bar Law Board for all the attorneys. Absolutely. Yeah. We asked the attorney for his license number. We have it, but we asked him just to give him an indication that, what is going on is not acceptable. He works for us. And let's say we say, wait a minute, were you involved in this? Let's say we asked him point blank, which we did. Are you involved in this? Do you know about this? Did you participate in this? And he's offended and gets mad. Why? All he has to do is say, no. No, ma'am. I am so sorry that you have had to go through this with the illegal stupid psyop search by an assault unit without a warrant. That's absolutely criminal. And maybe I can direct you to someone that can give you the answers to this. I can't, but I can give you maybe someone that could. Let me give you Judge Shuck's number. This is really serious. Why didn't he say that? Why wasn't that his response? No. They're angry. They're in cover-up mode. Yeah, just my opinion. Maybe. Absolutely. And you think that the military will show up for the lawyer failing to do their job? They waited a week. Exactly. The third day is right. They started searching on the 29th, so 31 would be 3 days. Thank you, Dan. I think it's right. Did they come to your house looking for Richard? What was their reason for the search? The reason was that they were searching for Richard. That's the reason why they came to the house. And there's no probable cause, especially when they have partial remains. So what was their real purpose? And that's why they couldn't have a warrant. So we've gotten in touch with the sheriff. And the sheriff in Sarasota is a lawyer. He's an attorney. So he absolutely understands this. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is some really important information today, that questions that we have. Let's see. He signed the AWOL document on the 2nd. I'm trying to, on the 5th, he participated in a meeting with Colonel Davis and other officials regarding Richard Halliday. On the 8th, he contacted CID Soto. 11th, he provided information. On the 14th, he went to a meeting with Colonel Davis. On the 17th, he had a meeting with Colonel Davis. Maybe that's when Colonel Davis said, you're out, because September 20th, we have been told that that's when he was relieved from his duties. And we weren't told that, y'all. We weren't told that. We were told that this was a normal rotation. This is just a rotation. But they got rid of the leadership there. Remember, both. And we were so non-expecting the level of cover-up here, because both Bernabe and Stewart were fresh coming in. Stewart got there very quick. And then Bernabe really quick after that. And I guess us being slow to get to El Paso, which, if you want to know why it took us until the 26th to get there, it's because they were telling us that there was no passport. And we were busy trying to find out if Richard went anywhere with a passport. So their lies to us, and all along, Richard's passport was in his belongings. They had his passport, and yet they told us that they didn't have his passport. And that delayed us. They delayed us, I think, on purpose. And I don't think it's a far reach to say that, because of what else they did to us. So I'm alleging that they wanted to delay us so that that Clem Coward could get out, Stewart could get in, they could get Bernabe over as soon as possible. Give him a second star real quick. Promise him a third star if he could get through this, covering this up. And committing crimes against humanity. Don't forget. Stewart wasn't so much on board with that, to be honest with you. And I think at the beginning, I think it was so fast. That's why he wasn't briefed. Remember, I've said in the first meeting we had with him, he wasn't briefed. I think it's because they rushed him in. He didn't know what was going on. And he tried to help us. And then they got to him and they twisted him and they turned him and they retaliated against him. This was politically motivated in several ways. And this was also job preservation by people that have power, that have authority. And that's why that paralegal was all twisted up in a mental condition. Absolutely had a mental condition that was not good when I went to his door. It was so obvious that he was, when it came to at least find Richard Halliday case, he was mentally unstable. And, he worked in JAG, okay? So that makes a lot of sense. Because these conflicts of interest are within the little group of CID and within JAG. And that's a little scary because those are two powerful places. And those are necessary for covering up a criminal syndicate. A crime mob within our military. And absolutely, it's obvious because the lengths that they're going to, I have checked over and over and over again. If this is like a bad nightmare, that somehow they would be telling us some shred of truth, but they're not. Richard was a whistleblower. They kept that from us. There's conflicts of interest. You would not believe. We still haven't heard any kind of information back from, let's say, Senator Cruz about this conflict of interest. Why not? It would play really well into all of this conflict of interest with Hunter Biden and the FBI and the CID, or the FBI, I guess, is in the Department of Justice. It's just another example how at the top it's like this, and it corrupts all the way down. So, but we're going to keep giving out information. I have some other information about allegations. The allegations against Clem Coward in this case. And they're shocking, y'all. So I'll do a little bit more verification, but I can tell you parts of it. Concealment, collaboration, knowledge of location, tampering, obstruction, misleading statements, and then it gets worse. And then it gets worse. So that's all going to be answered one day. It's all going to be answered one day. So Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's really late for everyone. Thank you for being long suffering and coming on day after day after day. We are very, very grateful. And it really helps us to be transparent. It helps us to get the word out. So please share. And we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Okay, everyone. Or tonight, right? It's 1:03. So later on today. Later today. Thank you so much. God